Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock. I'm Rob Vanoff, and perhaps you've seen in the news this week there was a coin, a very rare coin from the Jewish Revolt leading up to the destruction of the temple in the year 70 AD, returned to Israel. So the BBC, for example, we have an article by Rafi Berg, looted coin worth $1 million returned to Israel after years long hunt. I think it's over 20 years. I have the link to this article below. If you haven't seen it, you can see how tiny it is right there. This is a Miribar is the name of the person here holding this tiny coin. He's with the Israel Antiquities Authority. So you can see here it says the quarter shekel coin dated to 69 AD is one of only 4 of its kind known to exist. They say it's worth $1 million, this tiny little piece of silver. And what we're going to do in this video is look at some images of this, both sides of the coin, and look at the Hebrew text on the coin. So again, I've got links to the articles below, but what I've done is taken the image here, and we can look at both sides of this tiny silver quarter shekel. It's a 1/4 shekel. So it's like 1/4 shekel. Now in Hebrew, we're going to see it spelled with a kuf. So sometimes that's transliterated. Sometimes you'll see it with a q, shekel, something like that. But let's zoom in now, and we're going to look. I'm going to change colors on my pen here, and we'll look at both sides, one each in turn. So the one on the left here is, you can see there's Hebrew writing that starts here and goes this way, so it's upside down, even though the palm branches or the date palm are vertical. And this is a nice representation of a date palm. And I have an upside down, or I've flipped the image so we can look at the Hebrew text in a minute. But right now, what you can see is that we've got Hebrew letters. And if you know a little bit about Hebrew, you'll see that you'll notice that these are not the Aramaic script, but a style of what we call the Paleo Hebrew script, or the ancient Judean script. And then we're going to look at the reverse. And here too, we see a Hebrew letter right in the middle. And of course, we have some more agricultural symbolism here. So what I want to do is now look at how, a couple questions. How do we know that it's Jewish Revolt coin? How do we know the date? How do they know that this dates to 69 AD? How do they know? Well, the clue is on this side right here. And what we see is that there's a single Hebrew letter like that. I kind of trace that. Okay, let's do it one more time. I'll see if can I zoom any bigger. There you go. So you see this like that. And that is in the style of a Paleo Hebrew Dalet, which would just look like this. And the Dalet this is actually, not only was, there's just a little footnote here, not only is the coin a adoption of Gentile culture, right? That there were no coins originally in Israel. This is something that was happening within the larger world, and they started minting coins. But secondly, you have the use of letters, Hebrew letters, as numbers, which is the beginning of what we call gematria today, where they actually look at a word and try to think, oh, well, what's the numerical value of this word if each letter is in fact a number, and you add those up, and then the Kabbalists have a heyday with that sort of thing. But here, it just means a number, and it just means the number 4. It actually looks like a number 4, doesn't it? A number 4. Because Dalet is the 4th letter in the alphabet. So behind this this simple letter Dalet here, the simple letter Dalet implies a few things. It implies, I'll just make a note here, one, Hebrew letters used as numbers. This wasn't always so. Even in the Dead Sea Scrolls, we see slashes used as numbers. Even in some of the oldest extra-biblical Jewish texts we have, which is the Aramaic text from Elephantine or Yeb, the island in the Nile in southern Egypt, they used slashes to indicate numbers, not Hebrew letters. And we have other sources from the Second Temple era where we have Hebrew texts that refer to numbers, but they do not yet use the alphabet to represent those numbers. They're using some other kind of slash system, similar to, when we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we do 5. Not exactly that, but that kind of representation of numbers. So this is an innovation. The use of a Hebrew letter to represent a number is an innovation adopted from the Greeks. Greeks were already doing this. Also, it implies an order of the alphabet, right? The letter Dalet does not mean 4 unless Aleph equals 1, Bet equals 2, Gimel equals 3, and so on. Then, computer trying to crash there. Only if Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3, can Dalet be 4. So it implies an order of the alphabet. And then finally, we're going to see that it is using the Paleo Hebrew letters, Paleo Hebrew, as a kind of ideology of Judean independence, of Judean nationalism or independence. Because this is a claim. Remember, this is Rome, all the power of the Roman Empire against Jerusalem, basically, and Jews in Jerusalem. And so the minting of coin reflects tries to create a sense of solidarity against Rome. We're not going to participate in Rome. We are our own independent people. And then finally, we know from other sources that we call the year 66 is, let me move that over a little bit. The year 66 AD was the beginning of what we call the Jewish Revolt. So when we see the number 4 or the letter Dalet, as we see, that means year 4 of the freedom of the Jews. Year 4. So 66 is 1, 62, or 67 is 2, 68 is 3, and then 69 is 4. So this is how we get this date, that it's dated to 69, is because of this little Dalet right here. Okay, now, why a quarter shekel? Now I'm going to kind of erase all the other stuff I've done around here, and we'll look at this text here. Upside down. Why upside down? Because we need to be able to see what's going on with the Hebrew. I can zoom in. Because remember, Hebrew starts, it goes from right to left. So that's how we want to read this. We need to turn it upside down in order to read the text. And here's the letters. We have a letter that looks like this. Then a letter that looks like this. Then a letter that looks like this. It's not clear to me whether that's that's a letter ayin. I'm not sure whether it was meant to be fully open or not, or open on the end. And then we have, on the other side, we have a letter that looks like this, and then a letter that looks like this. And then we have a letter that is broken off. And we'll see what that is. That's going to be a kuf. And then we have a lamed that's also broken off. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to change color here, and then I'll make it so you can see what it is. First, I'll write it in the Paleo Hebrew style, kind of just reoriented it into a straight line. We have that letter, then this letter, then this letter, then we have the space, and then we have a hey, what ends up being a sheen, and a kuf, but the kuf is off the edge of the coin, and then finally a lamed, like this. And again, the edge of the kuf and the top of the lamed are off the edge of the coin. So, but we know that that's what it is because of other surviving coins from the revolt. So now, so that's in dark blue. Let me go to black here, and we'll look at, well, what is the actual Hebrew? Well, this letter is a resh. This letter is a bet. This letter is an ayin, reva. And this is the word for fourth, or a quarter. My scribble, if you can read my scribble, quarter. Arba is the word for four, but this is from the same root, resh, bet, ayin. Then we have a hey, a shin, a kuf, and then a lamed. Reva ha shekel, quarter shekel, or 1/4 of the shekel. So there you go. There's our use of Paleo Hebrew as an ideological affirmation of independence. And we're not going to put a question mark. We're going to affirm that this is from 69 AD for the reasons we talked about. The use of Paleo Hebrew here is not really religious. It is an attempt to affirm an authority that is ancient, like to say we are an ancient people, and we use this ancient alphabet to send the signal out as, in a way, a kind of propaganda to say we are the legitimate, true, ancient authorities over our land. And we're going to use that alphabet to symbolize our connection to the ancient Jewish kings. The texts that the vast majority of texts that were written by scribes of the Bible and even extra biblical literature from the First Temple era are not in this script at all. It's in the variations of what we call the Aramaic block script, or what we call Hebrew block now, but it's an Aramaic script. Only ideological use of the Paleo Hebrew was used. When I say ideological, it means it has symbolic value independent of practicality. And that's why we saw in my other video on the Torah portion with a fragment from Qumran, where we have the Tetragrammaton in the Paleo Hebrew writing. The scribe knew how to write the Tetragrammaton in Paleo Hebrew, but he wasn't very skilled in the Paleo Hebrew. It just had symbolic value because it was the name of the Creator, the name of God, the covenant God of Israel. So too here. But there's no reason here why this would be imagined as particularly religious. The emphasis, in my view, is on Judean independence as a nation that has its own strength, its own ability to fight and defend against the Romans. This is leading up to, of course, what Yeshua said would happen. Not one stone will be left on another. And so the question then is, who among Yeshua's disciples would have fought to try to save the temple? And that's a conundrum that many Jewish believers would have had in the first century as they approached the destruction of the temple, as they approached 70 AD. Do they flee, or do they stand and fight, and that would have been a big decision for them. If Yeshua says, flee, like it says in Matthew, I think they would have fled, because Yeshua says not one stone will be turned on another. In other words, if you believe Yeshua's words are going to be true, why would you fight to prevent that from happening? So I'll leave that to you to think about. So I hope this has been informative. I've got some links below for you to read up on this particular coin and its recovery and return to the land of Israel. And if you benefit from my videos, I ask that you like my video, share it with someone. It's important that people get sound historical context for the first century, rather than all the crazy people that are uninformed, uneducated, spewing ideas on the internet. So come to Rob on the Rock if you want clear, focused analysis of this kind of material. And if it benefits you, subscribe and consider supporting my work through my PayPal link. Shalom.